welcome to another edition of the Leading Ladies podcast, where we have amazing conversations with dope women who have done great things. Today's conversation is no different because I have a dynamic woman who I'm just so excited to be having this conversation with you on camera for the public to have, because we're in the same industry and we've come across each other so many times, and it's always love and respect, but we've never sat down to actually talk.
Yes.
So I'm excited that this is happening in this moment on camera. But I want you to introduce yourself and what it is that you do.
Okay, my name is Courtney Owens, and I am a spoken word artist. I host a podcast, Sporadic Thoughts, which is on iHeartRadio, a motivational speaker, a transformational speaker, and that's just me wrapped all in one.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm so glad to be here.
I'm glad you came. So I texted you yesterday as a reminder, and you said, thanks for the reminder, sis. But listen, I wasn't going to let you forget.
I'm glad you wasn't.
Because you are so important to the conversation as we talk about women in leadership and being influential and still just keeping their identity together. Like, you are so important to the conversation. And again, I've seen you from afar, admired your work. It's just so many questions that I have.
Well, I'm here to answer every question, and I'm so grateful to be in this space, working with other women in this space, especially other Black women, because we need each other. And I'm here to say, I need you, you know, and I'm here if you need me, because we need that togetherness. Nothing makes things work better than a whole part.
And that's it. And you know what? I'm going to kind of shift the framework, and we're just going to get right into it, because before we just had such a juicy conversation.
Absolutely.
And we're just going to keep the flow going from there. But you mentioned just being able to work with other Black women.
Yeah.
Again, we're in the same industry, life coaching, inspirational, transformational teaching, and those type of things. But there's always been love.
Absolutely.
Every time we see each other. There's never been like a sense of competition.
Right.
I mean, some of it is we have different audiences,
Yeah.
people we work with. That's one part of it, but genuinely just wanting to see each other win.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes from our profession.
Exactly.
We have
and
a profession and growth. And
we all have a
development,
different backstory. Like, your story is different than my story. So when I hear your story, I'm like, ooh, I'm inspired by that. And then when you hear my story, it's like, I'm inspired by that. So when we tell our stories, we're the only ones that can tell our stories. And our stories need to be heard. So like I said, your story is different from my story. And my story is different from your story. And the audiences that we have, they can feed off everybody's story.
Yes.
Yes.
Because everybody that's listening has so much complexity within themselves. There's certain things that they can relate to that only you can communicate, and there's certain things that only I can communicate that will hit certain areas that people are challenging with. So I think, and the reason I brought that up is because right before we started to shoot, we talked about just kind of people and the envy and, you know, just the feeling like people are being left behind, or all of these different, underlining issues, internal issues that people have. And at the end of the day, just really understanding and respecting one another for just being them.
Absolutely.
And I love you for what you contribute.
And I love you.
And I know you do.
Absolutely.
Because I feel it, and I've never felt anything less than that. So how do we, when we have those real internal feelings of jealousy, of envy, maybe we feel like our friend is leaving us behind because now their career is taking off, their business is taking off, maybe they don't have the time. I want you to speak to that person who may really be having some internal conflict of jealousy and envy. Maybe they haven't been honest with themselves yet, but that's what it is.
Absolutely. And I believe that if we address the fact that we're all hurting in some way, and the hurt has absolutely nothing to do with me, and I think it's because I chose to heal where I'm hurting, that makes me see things with a different eye. When I look at you, I don't look at you with envy. I don't look at you with jealousy. I look at you with inspiration. And I think a lot of the times the people that we're familiar with, that we've grown up with, or even people that might know us from social media, they see us moving in these different spaces. And a lot of times when you get on social media, people don't post the bad things that happen with them. They only post the good things that happen with them. And I've learned that being transparent and even posting some of my downs, my valley moments, go a lot further. And I just want to say to the people that are close to me, like, if we feel any kind of disconnection, I don't mean for it to be like that. Please look at me with an eye that I'm just trying to move forward and conquer my dreams. And I'm moving in the directions of my dreams. I've had these dreams since I was 13, 14. I'm the same person. I'm just moving in a different space, and I'm moving in a different light because I recognize that in order to do something different, in order to be somebody different, I have to do different things. So if you don't see me doing the things that I used to do, it's because I'm growing up, not just in a physical space, but in an emotional and a spiritual space. And I think with me, it's more of a spiritual space because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And I recognize that God has a different calling on my life. And I can't continue to shut those callings out because of the fear that
people.
Right. Because I fear what other people think. And recently, I went through a period of depression. And healing, it's not a linear plane. It's ups and downs and ups and downs. And I had to recognize that I'm feeling like lonely because people are looking at me. And like I said, in that whole jealous light, and it makes you feel differently. It makes you question everybody's motive. It makes you question, like, what do they want from me? People think you got all these great, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just me. I'm just plain old me.
And I'm glad that you mentioned your depression because I think it's important. I just came out of depression myself. I would say it was about an 18-month period. The first 6 months of it, I didn't even recognize that it was depression. I just knew I wasn't quite myself, but I'm busy. So I'm just moving. I'm putting it on other things. I'm busy. I got a lot going on. So what, my emotions are up and down a little bit more inconsistently than they usually are. I ignored it. The minute I identified this is depression, because this isn't me, and I'm not coming out of it, I began to, go into my toolbox and began to do that work on myself. And I came out of it, I would say about November. So then my language around it changed. And me and Amber, we met several times and we talked about it. And I went from saying I'm experiencing depression to I'm coming on the other side of depression. To
language
I am
change.
now on the other side of depression. I'm back to me. I feel amazing. But it's important to highlight because, again, both of us are in public spaces and we're looked at as positive individuals, impactful individuals. We're coaches, we're life coaches, we're spiritual leaders, we're all of these things. So people automatically see us and assume, you can't be depressed.
Like I'm human.
I actually had someone say that to me once. I made a comment about, not knowing something, like not knowing what the next step. And she said, you should know, you're a life coach. And that kind of gave me it was like an eye opener. Like, wow, this is the perception of people in our space. Now, you said that yours kind of came from just feeling isolated, feeling lonely. We talked about that a little bit. You're more introvert or extroverted than I am. I am introverted. And there's misconception about introverted people. They, shy, lack of confidence, whatever. But the truth about an introverted person is we're just more internal beings, I think, a lot. Like I'm always breaking things down. I'm always questioning things, and there's strengths and weaknesses within that. But more than anything, I just enjoy being alone. And
I've come to accept that. And like my son, he always says, because he knows me, and I spend more time alone than anything. It's like you're a popular loner.
That's what my husband calls me.
Right, a popular loner. Like usually when you see me, I'm by myself. I don't have a lot of people around me, but I've come to understand that it's not loneliness, it's just isolation. It's me being isolated so I can understand and tap into my own feelings. And when you go into a season of elevation, the elevation requires separation because you have to come head on with the feelings that you are feeling. And being a life coach and working in the mental health field, I'm an empathetic person. So I take on a lot of people's feelings, and it got to a point where, I was juggling clients and I just kind of stepped back for a minute because I'm like, life coach needs a therapist. And they don't understand. Just because I'm a life coach and I know, methods and I can talk, the mental health terms, that doesn't mean that I'm not affected by that. I'm affected by other people's emotions. I'm an empathetic person, like I said, so I take on a lot of people's emotions and my cup gets empty. So I have to take a step back because how can I pour into everybody else when my cup is empty? Nobody's pouring into my cup. So we have to recognize that and say, I need to take a step back. I need to rejuvenate myself, and I'm busy all the time. And I decided that this year, coming into 2023, I wanted to be busy, but I want all my moves to be strategic. So if I can have just 2 strategic moves instead of 15 smaller moves, and I don't feel like I'm running on a hamster wheel, I'll take that. And the art of no.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to say no. It's 2 letters, N-O, and not feel bad about it. Like if I don't feel that I need to be in that space, then it's okay for me to say no. And I hope people don't take my no as I don't want to do this, but it's just a no for myself. Sometimes we have to be selfish with ourselves because we give so much of ourselves till we run dry and we run empty. And who wants to run like that? You can't even run a car with no gas. So I need my gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so much that I wanted to unpack and hit on in that, but we also have to move forward. But I wanted to go back to just that depression element, the isolation.
Oh my God.
And mine's kind of came from, I would say, more of a lack of clarity, which you also just kind of touched on, which the power of saying no. You can't really say no if you're not clear on the direction. I can't say I'm not going that way.
Yeah.
So I can't say no because I'm not clear on the direction. So a part of that it contributed to my depression. But also what I hear, and this has been my experience, is it's important for me to also have people that can pour into me.
Oh my gosh.
And I am just now in the space of my life where I have put those people strategically in place, right? I have a therapist, and my therapist has a therapist.
See?
And I asked because I know I'm pouring a lot onto you, and this is your job. I'm giving it to you for you to sort through. So you also have to be able to go somewhere and kind of release things and work through things the same way I do. So having a therapist, having good partnerships, good relationships, you know. I've talked about Frank recently, like he's been a recent connection that I've actually really developed that relationship. He's able to pour into me or identify things. Same thing with Amber, like she's able to kind of come to me and say, hey, what's going on? This doesn't look right. Are you, you know what I mean? People before, they didn't have that capacity to give me what I needed. So I do think that we always kind of have to be in this space of being in between, where I'm learning and pulling from other people who are in position to pour into me, but then I'm also able to pour into somebody else.
And even people that recognize your body language. I've posted videos and people hit me up like, sis, your body language was off. Like, is everything okay? Like, you're not, you got the message across, but I could tell from your body language that everything is not okay. And when people hit me with that, I'm overjoyed because I'm usually the one that's hitting people like, hey, is everything going all right? And people get used to that. So when somebody hit me with, hey, sis, I seen your video, is everything cool? Is everything okay? Like, I could just recognize from your body language. So we need people like that in our lives.
How many people can we actually build relationship with that can recognize that? Or how many people that can actually recognize that? Because once they recognize it, if they care, they're going to follow up. But how many people actually can recognize or know us enough to be able to pick up on subtle changes?
And I guess that all depends on who you're comfortable enough to open up to.
Good, man.
Because my circle is really small. I know a whole lot of people, but a lot of people don't know me personally. A lot of people don't know that I'm this silly person. I'm going to crack jokes, and I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to kick it. A lot of people don't know that. So you have to be willing to open up to a lot of people. And I think as women, we have a problem with opening up because we don't want our vulnerability. You know what I mean? We don't want to be, okay, I'm going to just say we've had the persona of being the superwoman. And we have to learn to rid ourselves of that theory because we're not superwoman. And unfortunately, we've been placed in many situations where we had to do things by ourselves. Not that we wanted to do things by ourselves. So we put on that cape every day and we just go with the flow. But in the end, we get hurt because when that cape comes off at the end of the day, when that mask comes off at the end of the day, it's really just you and your feeling. So I think we have to be open to saying like, look, I need some help. I need some sisterhood. I need some love and like touch. You know what I mean? Like we need that like the power. I did a TED talk and a lady named Edie Weinstein, her TED talk was based on touch. Like just the feeling of touch we have to go back to that. You know, like our grandmothers, like they hugged all the time. And we have to go back to those moments. Like human touch is everything.
It is.
It's everything. So it's just different elements that we have to open ourselves back up to.
And, you know, just speaking about the touch point, because it reminds me, there was an incident that I had with a woman at McDonald's. So I was at McDonald's. This was some months back. But they were really busy, really overwhelmed. And it was a black manager and there was a black crew member, a man. And he was like dropping the ball. He was messing up. You know how McDonald's is sometimes. He was messing up. But she came up and yelled at him in front of everybody. I was so uncomfortable. I went over there and I said, no. You're not finna chastise this black man in front of all these people.
Yeah.
You're not finna do that. And she started going on, and I this and I that, and I've been telling him, and I did exactly what you just said. I said, listen, I understand, but you need to understand. As black people, as black men, we have to support one another. You take them to the back and you have that conversation, but you do not do that in front of all these people. And her tone changed. Just from the touch.
Yeah, right. It's like the belittling. Like we have got to stop doing that to each other specifically. And when we see somebody else, like you recognize that with somebody else and you have the courage to say something. Sometimes we see situations and we don't have the courage to say anything. We'll think like, man, that's not right. But when you stand up and get the courage to say something, the whole situation shifts because people do things and they don't recognize that it's hurting somebody else.
Or even the rebuttal, now you don't have enough self-control, because a lot of people, when she started coming back at me, a lot of people now, we're just going to go back and forth.
And it could have went woo.
And it could have went left. But again, just having that level of self-awareness, understanding just the power of keeping your tone at a level, at a calming level, and touching people. It sends so much love and comfort, and it comforts the other person. You know, so I think that's valuable. And so tell me more about your life coaching business. You have a book. You have multiple books.
Well, I have the Sporadic Thoughts book, and I did that with co-author Matt Sanders. And I'm actually still working on my own book, The Seed, the Caterpillar, and the Butterfly. I hope I didn't give too much,
I can't wait.
I'm working on that, and I've discovered that writing a book is it's not hard, but I like to know what I'm talking about. So I go
it's the
research. So I'm talking about the seed, the caterpillar, and the butterfly, of course, when you have to learn to separate the fact that you are planted and not buried. You can't confuse the two because they both go into a deep, dark place. A seed goes into the ground and it's in the ground for a while, but all the while it's developing roots to attach to the source, and the source is God. And you cannot confuse that with being buried. You know, when you're buried, you go into a deep, dark space, but it's a permanent space. You know what I mean? You've completed, you know what I mean, your purpose. But that seed, you cannot confuse the two. And with the butterfly, you know, the process of going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, the middle process is the cocoon. And we don't technically know what goes on in a cocoon, but it's a deep, dark space. But in that same deep, dark space, you are developing colors and you are developing wings to fly away. And once you emerge into that butterfly, you know what I mean, you actually are using your wings and you are flying away. So I just want to talk about the transformation, and I'm even talking about the lotus flower, right? The lotus flower, it comes from the mud. It's the only flower that blooms in the mud. And me doing research, I didn't realize that there's different types of lotus flowers. You know what I mean? So we can all attest that we can bloom in mud. We might, you know, to send the kids, say, get it out the mud, get it out the mud. We all have some kind of mud in our lives. I don't care if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. It's still some kind of mud in your life. And that mud is that muck and that mire, you know what I mean, that you have to develop beautiful wings and beautiful petals and flowers to emerge out of. And I'm using my own stories and my own series of transformation that I've went through, like in my own personal life, the transformation of, you know, me having a son and not actually knowing who his dad was until he's 14. So I'm putting myself on the line. They're looking like, what, you? I'm like, yes, me. But I recognize that, and I was honest and I was truthful about the situation. And my son, he developed his real dad, but he's also has his dad that, you know what I mean? But I'm just transparent, like it happens to me. It happened to me. So I get a lot of women like, you need to tell your kids who they are. Like, don't play the games. Don't play the games. Let your kids know who they are. We all make mistakes. And I'm just transparent with my stuff. I don't care. Like my stuff, I'm unpacking my stuff. I don't care about you judging me because ultimately you're not my judge. So just being transparent with things has really like jump-started my life. And how I got into life coaching, I was seeing a therapist. So I'm chopping it up with the therapist. You know, we're going back and forth. And like I said, I've always been a spiritual person. And she looking at me like, I'm learning from you.
Yeah.
Maybe you should get into therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, I got a bachelor's degree in social sciences and all that. I'm like, but I don't feel like going to school and doing all. She was like, you don't even have to do all that.
Yeah.
You know, went ahead and got my life coaching certification. And that's how I started with my life coaching business. And I'm getting ideas and tips from my own therapist, like start your clients off with the vision board and, you know, do the car exercise. You ask a person like, what's your favorite car? What's your dream car? And they say an Audi. And then the next time I see them, they're like, well, guess how many Audis I've seen since we talked about it. And when I do my life coaching practice, I'm using myself. You know what I mean? I'm just putting on my clients what I went through and how I'm healing and how I explain to them that, like I said earlier, the healing is not a vertical plane. It doesn't just happen. You can be triggered by instances. Anything can trigger you, but you kind of sit with that for a moment. You sit with it, but you don't live in it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Period.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to know about the transparency. I want to go back to that.
Okay.
Because you said it's being transparent is what helps you just heal and, you know, get over things, and also helps you deliver other people that you
Absolutely.
work with. How do you get to that point of transparency?
It's just
so many people struggle with even being transparent. It's like, am I giving too much? Am I not? How do I be transparent? Or even, how am I transparent with myself? Because it starts with yourself, being real with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that journey for you? Because you just revealed something that I'm sure was very challenging, very hurtful. It took some time to get there. You know what I mean? Now you're also dealing with, on top of my own feeling of maybe inadequacy or regret, I got my child and all those emotions, but then I also got the public.
Right.
How do you get to that point of, you know what?
It's just a moment of honesty within yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then who can you be honest with? And like I said, I had to remove the seat of judgment because Lord knows I'm not the first person and I won't be the last. So once I got over the fact that I didn't care about who will judge me, and even the conversation that I had with my mom, she was like, well, you know, you're not the first and you will not be the last. I know plenty of people walking around that don't even know who they are. So once I got over that, then I was okay with it. And anything else in my life, because I'm transforming. Don't remind me of what I used to be, because I don't live there anymore. And if you don't recognize me, then that's on you, because I'm the same person. So just that, having that conversation with yourself and that moment of honesty, when you look in the mirror and say, okay, I messed up, but it's not the end of my story. It's not a period, right? There's a comma. So when you recognize, and even that, everybody has a chapter of their life that they don't want to be, you know, that they don't want read out loud.
Yeah, everybody. And you know, my transparency moment, or when I came to the realization that I can just be myself and not worry about judgment. Now, it's not as eloquent as yours.
Okay.
For me, it was about 2018, honestly. And I just had a revelation, like, F these people. Do what they think.
Right.
Because we all trying to figure it out. Like, I really realized that all the questions that I have, or all of the insecurities that I have, so many other people have it.
Yeah.
So while they're judging me, they're also dealing with that. And that is actually what freed me to say, you know what, I'm just going to live in my truth.
Yeah, and you know what? It's my first time being a human. I don't know everything.
Right.
I don't know everything. And the people before me didn't know everything. So we're all on this journey.
I think Kanye West said a quote. He said, why do you care about what people think when most people don't think? Most people don't think for themselves.
And then, you know, we sometimes spend all this money. We go through all these hoops trying to impress people that don't even care. So I think it's more about internal self.
It's internal.
Self thing. Yeah, that knowledge of self. Once you gain knowledge of self, it's like you look at things differently. You look at people differently. You hear conversations differently. Just everything in the world is different. You see things in a different
and
light.
You can just love naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
Like, I can love you in your flaws.
Yeah.
I can, because I understand that I have flaws.
Absolutely.
My self-respect allows me to respect others, you know, and it becomes easier. So your spoken word, because that's
my baby right there. Yeah.
Yes. And every time I've heard your message, I mean, it's so moving.
Thank you.
It's so moving, and you can just tell, like, she dug deep.
Yes.
To get
and spoken word, that's my first passion. That's my baby. And everything that I have done in my life has stemmed from spoken word. And I think it's me understanding the power of words, you know, just words, period. The tongue is the sharpest muscle in the body. Yeah. So we have to find a way to use our words. And I started off rapping when I was like 13 and 14, was actually getting ready to get signed with the Stanky Leg. Remember, do the Stanky Leg? Okay. You know, with that whole crew. Yeah. And it wasn't for me. So I just took the music out and just started doing the spoken word. And I got to give a shout out to Marky Choots. Okay. You know, God bless his soul. Yeah. Marky Choots and Travis Monfort, when we were rock it out at the meeting place, you know, we would have a packed building, and they were really the first two that gave me the mic and said, go ahead and do your thing. So really, the spoken word, it was raps just without the music. And then I've learned to just do spoken word. And my greats are Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, Sanchez. I study the greats, and even Martin Luther King, just how they use their voice and the riffs, and the power of words are amazing. And last year I spoke in the state capitol. You know, I was in Columbus. It was like a crime survivors week, and it was just a day of healing. And me actually speaking in the rotunda, you know what I mean? I'm like in the rotunda. I'm like, okay, that let me know. Even before then, I've spoken at many church events, many community events. I'm like, it's something about these words. It's just the power in the words. And I use them to inspire people. And, you know, we all have gifts. We all have different gifts. We all have different God-given gifts. And I figure, like, this is a gift from God, so I better use this to inspire people. He's gonna take it. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what? You're a female rapper, or you used to be.
I
rapper.
still got flow.
This is a controversial topic, and I want to know, as a coach, as a symbol of women empowerment, and also as a rapper or as an artist, right? Artistic expression. What is your take on female rappers and women empowerment?
Whew. My God, that's a hard one, because I grew up with like the Queen Latifahs and then the MC Lights and the Nikki D's, where they didn't even have to shake body to be recognized. And now I don't really listen to a lot of the rap, but I will say Lizzo, I like her because she plays a flute, of course, right? But she's got so many different elements to her. And when I listen to her music, it's like she's already like crossed over. And when I listen to like the Nicki Minaj's and the Cardi B's, I'm not moved because I don't like our little girls being influenced by that. Like, it's so many other things that you can be influenced by. Like, you don't have to be ignorant. You know, you don't have to dim your light. You don't have to be ignorant. And a lot of these stars that are doing this, like the background,
doesn't even align.
Right, the background, that's not even you. Yeah.
So now, and I'm glad that we actually hit this, because I think this is probably my first pushback. Okay. Because I, on the other hand, actually do see women empowerment in some of that music.
Of course.
Maybe it's depending on the background, but I also understand the power of influence and the power of words. And I remember when I was listening to certain music when I was younger, I'm taking it literally. Now, when I listen to Meg Thee Stallion, now let me be clear, I don't listen to it a lot. Most of the times, if you're in my car, I'm listening to some type of personal development, audio, gospel, or R&B. 90s R&B, that's my jam. That's me all day. But occasionally I'm going to turn on some Meg Thee Stallion specific songs, right?
Yeah, I get it.
You know, or I'm going to work out to it, but it's the beat, it's the frequency, not necessarily the words. So I do think it's a different conversation when we're talking about those women being able to share some of their experiences, especially when it's real. Let's be clear. We also understand like the music industry isn't even owned by us.
Exactly.
So the agenda to push out that is strategic.
It's an agenda.
Right? But also when the music, when the lyrics are coming from a place of them trying to heal. I feel like from a parental perspective, it is challenging, right? Because we can't keep our kids from hearing that. They're going to hear it, you know, at school or at the park or on the bus. They're going to hear it. But I do think that's when our influence over our children has to be the dominant influence, and we have to continue to pour more into them. So,
and even like you said, like, don't get confused, because I'm all about the women's empowerment. And just for those young ladies being in that industry, I'm inspired because it's a tough industry. But I think like the message that we push out, it needs to be more refined.
Like, I did this, but I'm not doing
this.
Right?
And then the FNF, you know, I don't want to say what that means, but most of the audience. Right.
So let me be clear. I'm so tapped out though, to be honest, because I know that I listen to that music, especially when I'm trying to harness this baddie energy. About the only time I listen to it. Like, I can't tell you all the songs on the album. I'm not a fan. I study, and also study just the confidence and the presence being on stage. Knowing that people are still dealing with stuff. Beyonce is one that I study, just her work ethic. So I'm looking at it from a different perspective. But so I didn't even know what FNF meant when you first said it.
Right.
I'm like,
and
what?
To me, I think that within our community, it promotes division between the black family, because we don't understand the power of the black family. We didn't come up in an era where most of our parents were together.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that kind of trickles down. But we don't understand. We are the only race of people that belittle each other. You know, I've never heard a white country singer or, you know, call their women bees, and I've never heard that. And it might be out there, but I just never heard it. I've just never heard it. But then, you know, when I listen to our music, particularly our rap music, that's all I hear. Like, we are not promoting oneness, and the kids, they see that.
So another pushback on that is when we, and not necessarily you, but
right.
I see just in this conversation, is almost exclusionary, which contributes to the division.
Right.
So because we don't own that industry,
yeah.
and we need to own that industry because we created it, but because we don't own it, we're so divided because of our feelings against it, right? Because we understand that this is damaging to our community. So then I'm just going to denounce that music completely. And now they're off alone trying to figure it out in a pool of sharks.
Yeah, we got to be inclusive.
We got to be more inclusive. That's why I think the conversation is important, to not exclude and to be specific. I'm talking like the NBA young because I have a son.
Right.
And that, when I first heard NBA, I'm like...
And they love NBA Youngboy.
They love
but
him.
I just seen where he was even coming back saying that, you know, most of the music that I did... Right, recently, like he had an epiphany or something. Like, you know, most of the music that I'm doing, it's not promoting unity. He got on the other side of it. But originally, when I'm now parenting my son, I hear the music, I hear the damage, and I'm concerned for my son. Yeah. But my first response is, don't listen to that. It's not going to work. Yep, not going to work. So I began to talk to him about NBA and what NBA is. And I remember making a comment like, he's working through some traumas. Yes, and I learned his backstory. Trauma. I'm like, he's working through some traumas. My son comes to me a few weeks later like, you're right, because he said in his song he was going to get therapy. Now here we go several years later, he's kind of still going through that healing process and not acknowledging what his music did. But I do think including them in the conversation so that we can actually be able to help redirect them versus saying, y'all are bad music. We're good music. And like you said, the way the industry is designed, like if they do positive rap, then they won't be promoted. And I think it's almost death by design. You know what I mean? Like, let's push this. Even I was reading an article where it was talking about TikTok. Like when you go over to China, TikTok is censored. Strategically, they don't show their kids under a certain age. Exactly. Right. And then it's not, the algorithms are set up to where, you know, we get all the trash. So kids think that going into a grocery store and trashing it or just being rude to people is normal. Yeah, because like that's not normal. Right, that's not normal everyday life. So we need to And that comes when we talk about these topics within our homes and within our own communities and tell our kids, like, look, that's not really reality. Everybody's doing this stuff for likes. So we as parents and we as a community have to pull our kids to reality and have these sensitive conversations with our kids because they're so impressionable. And I've never was the one to censor what my kids listen to, or because I'm a realist. I grew up listening to the Eazy-E. My brothers were 12 and 8 years older than I am, so I'm 6 singing Police. You know what I mean? So, but my mom and my brothers had that conversation with me. So it's about us having those conversations with our kids and saying, okay, that's entertainment. They might live that life. Who knows? We don't know the backstory, but the reality of it is.
And just to add to that, like being the dominant thoughts, dominating their thoughts with more. So if they got 50 songs replaying in their mind, you need to hear 100 affirmations that come from me telling you that you are a king and that you know that you are destined for greatness. Like you can do or be anything that you want to be. You know, so being the dominant voice in their mind, I think plays a big role. So they're going to hear it, but can we dominate what they're hearing, right?
Exactly.
We might not always influence. I was talking to a girl, and she gave me some good game because she was like, you're not as influential to your son as somebody else is because you're a mom.
Yes.
You know, so it was just like, dang, that hit, but it was so real. You know what I mean? So I realized like aligning myself with other people that agree with what, you know, developing a son looks like, and then them being also to help influence my kid in a positive way.
And I can attest to that because my oldest son, he's 20 now. So now he's out in the world and he's recognizing the seed of racism. He's recognizing how everything is designed. Like I had him really diving into like the Willie Lynch papers. And he was understanding like where the breakdown of the black family came from, where the police force came from, you know, like he's understanding that now. So everything that I instilled in him as a young boy when I didn't think he was listening, you know, he's feeding it back to me and I couldn't be more proud. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you were listening.
And we got to plug that Willie Lynch letter. That if everybody needs to read it and not just read it, but study it. Because that literally gives you the foundation
the whole
of how we were broken and how it still shows up in our families and the breakdown of our
and you know what? I call that epigenetics. Even the traumas that we experience, somewhere down the line, our family experienced that. You know, my mother experienced that. Her mother's mother experienced that. And if we don't break the cycles, then it'll just keep continuing. And we have to recognize like that. It's in almost cuss, but we have, we have to recognize it's in our bloodline. It's in our bloodline. Somebody in our family was on a ship somewhere, you know, in the Middle Passage, beaten, bruised and battered. And even when my sons were little, you know, I would whoop them. But now as I've grown up, I'm understanding that comes from slavery. You know, when slaves did something bad, guess what happened? They were whooped. So that's all my grandmother and my great-grandpa, that's all they knew. And now that I recognize, I'm like, you know, we can have a conversation and this can go a lot further. And we just have to recognize that, man, we as a Black race, as Black people, we have been through so much. And now a lot of the things, because I've been to therapy, I've gone through healing, you've been to therapy, you've gone through healing, we recognize like, man, that's in our bloodline. And how do we get rid of that? It's like diabetes, you know, they say it's in your bloodline, but if you eat right, exercise, you can reverse that. So how can we reverse the whole mental aspect of everything? And sometimes we don't even recognize what trauma is. We think trauma is, you know, being in a war or something like that. We don't recognize that this 13-year-old seen his friend get killed. Like death is all around us. We don't recognize that's trauma for that 13-year-old because they're angry now.
Or even going to more of a micro level, they're in school and the teacher is, you know, forcing them maybe to read out loud.
And they might have a stuttering issue or they might not be competent.
That complex and that confidence is being chipped away at such a young age. I'm telling you, I am in I disagree with the SROs in the schools.
Absolutely.
I highly disagree with the
Yep.
school resource officers, the cops. Just call them cops. They're
Yeah,
police
that's
in
what they
school,
are.
in their uniform. And
Yep.
I mean, just seeing that and that playing through the kids' minds.
Yep.
And we know the power of visualization.
Absolutely.
And what you see manifesting in your life. So, and I think the healing part from what we've experienced starts with, like you say, going to therapy, healing yourself, being able to do that introspective work and self-awareness, and then starting within your home.
Yeah,
When I
the
first
love.
just the giving the love, just constantly giving the love, you know. So when I first really began to speak out about different issues that I was seeing in the community, I got a lot of pushback from family, but I said, you don't have to hit the streets with the picket sign. You can right here in the house, just learn, just grow, just teach what you're learning, unlearn some of those things that we've been accustomed to forever. Like you say, I love the fact that you hit on whooping our children, and how that is trauma from our past generations. And it shows up. The division in the family is trauma from past generations. It's, from the war on drugs and when they first started flooding our community with welfare. That's a whole other topic. Girl.
Right. We could go all day. Right. Yeah, we could go all day.
Because, I'll touch on this and then I'm going to continue, but my husband's in prison. Prior to the welfare surge and the churches being involved in that whole package then, there were a group of women that were willing to go. They were organizing to go break their men out. Because they're like, you guys are incarcerating our men at a massive rate. And we're gonna raise some hell. We're gonna go get them.
Yeah, we definitely got to do a
Welfare
part 2.
credit.
Yeah, it's the mask of the helping hand.
Yes.
And that all started in like the 70s with and I worked in public housing and I worked in Section 8. It's like, okay, in order for me to have this Section 8 voucher or live in this public house, I can't have my man here. Yeah. So it's like the divide thing there. So guess what he did? He went on about his business because I needed these food stamps and I needed this helping hand from Section 8 and this voucher. So guess what he did? He went on along his way and said, well, I guess you don't need me anymore. So now what? Right.
So now in today's era where men are, maybe playing the field too much and they don't know themselves and they're out here being community D, they're hurt.
Right. And that stems.
And now you got Cardi B talking about F them. What I mean? And it really is a cycle.
It's a cycle.
That is the conversation from people who are enlightened to see it, to say, no. We got to bring this back.
And then, even like with our men, and you hit on something when they don't understand, like, where all this player and stuff came from. You were bred. You know what I mean? They used you to impregnate this woman, to impregnate that woman, to impregnate that woman. They used you because you were the strongest buck. You know what I mean? So all of that is still going on. You know what I mean? You look at some men, he got a family here, a family there, a family here, a family there, and they ain't taking care of none of them. Like, you just bred yourself over and over. And you didn't even know where it came from.
Daddy isn't home. Now we got more children, more men, more male children coming up.
And guess where they go back to? Willie Lynch.
Yes.
Well, they say, okay.
Read that letter. Read that letter. It will teach you so much just about the foundational aspect of where everything that we see today, where it comes from, and then you can kind of start.
It's like we're gonna make the woman the head of the household, and then guess what? She's gonna teach the boy all the things that he need to know, and then eventually he's gonna be emasculated.
She's gonna be so afraid of what will happen to him that she's gonna break the boy.
Yeah.
She's gonna
It's all by design, and we need to know this in order to break it.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. That was so good. But so now you have 2 sons.
Yep, I do.
Knowing everything that you know about the challenges that young Black men have, how have you been able to kind of move through that transition of teenager into adulthood? Like, what was?
Yeah, I'm still doing it. I got a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I tell them, like, you have so many odds stacked against you, and I'm sorry it has to be like that. It's just the way it is. Like, I have to have conversations with my boys that white women don't have to have with their boys. I have to have a conversation with my son like, look, you are going to be stopped. You will be profiled just because of the way that you look, and I am so sorry, but here's how you handle that situation. It's the difficult conversations. You have to have the difficult conversations. I have to tell my boys, like, look, you can't go out and act crazy. Be yourself at all times. Be your authentic self, but you have to, I want you to come home at night. You know what I mean? I want you to be able to come home at night. I want you to live through the day. If you get stopped, I want you to be able to live through the stop. And it's a shame that I have to tell my son.
It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I got some boisterous sons.
Yes.
And I hate to have to tell them to dim their light.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
But I have conversations with them to be able to handle themselves. And I've always looked to men of the community.
Yeah.
Like Frank. We got our Frank Cages. I look to men of the community because I can't do everything. I'm not a man. So I don't care what any woman says. As a single mother, I cannot teach my boys how to be a man. It's certain things that I couldn't teach my 20-year-old how to do. I couldn't teach my 17-year-old how to do. I could tell them, but are they really going to listen to me? I need a man that's went through this to tell my son this. So I've always just reached out to the community, and I kept my boys involved in different programs, whether it be sports or, you know, whatever, just to show them some positive light. And I think it's about what you show your kids.
Yeah.
You have to put them in that space.
What I hear you say, though, a lot of women say, I had to be mom and dad.
Yeah.
But I don't hear you saying that you were
I don't
dad.
know. I never was dad.
You went out and put people in place.
Yeah.
You
and
were still mom.
Yeah,
You were able to just be mom.
Yeah.
So now I didn't have to, like, put on this extra burden of being the man in the house. Like, and I still have people that do it. Send me a happy
Father's Day. I was just getting ready to say that. Like, don't do that.
I'm like, I don't even know if I respond.
Yeah, that's an easy way to get cussed out with me.
Seriously, because I've never been the father.
Yeah, never.
And I'm not.
Nope, and I never tried to be.
Yeah,
and I never tried to be. And I've had moments where, you know, I break down and I cry and I want to scream and I want to yell, but I got in my car or I went in my room and did it because I have feminine characteristics. And I don't want my boys to think that when the world weighs them down, it's okay for them to cry, scream, yell, or kick. Yeah. But no, be in touch with your emotions. By all means, I'm not saying men don't cry and all that. That's not what I'm saying. But I need you to shoulder square.
Yes.
I need you to be able to look a man in his eye. I don't need you like Baby Boy, the whole Oedipus complex. You remember the movie Baby Boy? You know what I mean? I don't need you to. I don't need that. I need you to be a man. I need you to be what you are designed to be. Not saying that you have to be this hardcore shell of a person, but my emotions and your emotions are different. Exactly. Yeah. My emotions are different. And I never wanted to live in so much masculine energy that I forgot my own feminine energy. And you know, we as women, we do that.
Don't know, but the boys don't know what a woman looks like, or how to recognize a woman who's operating in her feminine energy, who's being able to actually be a nurturer and in tune with her emotions. But what we have seen in our community, you know, I've experienced it and had to kind of like come to the other side of being in touch with my feelings. Yeah. Because we get accustomed to, you know what, I got to do this.
Yeah, being
that.
so hard.
Everything. Yes, and I wasn't even identifying the fact that I did not allow myself to feel. The only thing that I would allow myself to feel was anger. Yeah. All the other negative emotions, they kind of got calloused. But when I'm angry, I'm angry. But what that was my sadness. Oh my God. That was my fear. That was my that was all the other negative emotions that was callous coming out now masked as anger. So I've really been tapping into that space of just feeling again.
Yep. And you know what? That's funny because when I did my TED Talk, matter of fact, y'all can check out the TED Talk on YouTube. Yes. I did it on debunking the theory of the angry black woman. Like, it's okay to be okay. We are not angry. We are simply tired. And I went through 3 different scenarios. I was in a workplace and I work in a factory, right? My day job, I do have a day job. It's in a factory. And I can see women being angry, but it's simple for the simple fact that I have to jump through hoops. Yeah. My work is always reviewed. When I'm looking at my white counterparts, like they just get away with murder and the work is less than par. And I put my heart and soul into this, but I'm still under review. Like, I'm not angry. I'm tired of constantly being placed in that situation where I've had to climb this corporate ladder and still be stopped at that glass ceiling. And I even talked about the medical professional. Like, when I go to the doctor, I'm talking about like Western medicine is different from what our bodies should be accustomed to. So I'm dealing with these doctors, you know, I got skin issues, and after a while they think I'm crazy because Like I'm just breaking out of nowhere.
It's not in their books.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in their books. And they're
not
not telling me it's a gut issue. They're not telling me eczema is a gut issue. You know what I mean? I'm doing my own research and I'm finding out that this eczema is a gut issue and I have to change my diet because the mood and the food, it goes together. But they don't tell us that. They might see you with good insurance or you got this insurance, they keep you coming back.
Yes.
Because that's part of the plan.
Yes.
You know, and I even talked about the trauma that my mom felt growing up. My mom is a darker skinned lady, so she dealt with a lot of colorism. And that affected her to the point where she was mean in some situations and in some instances, but I didn't know her backstory.
Yeah.
So I had to find out her backstory, and she had to carry so many loads that she shouldn't have had to carry. So that went in my brothers and myself's bloodline. You know what I mean? So I have to decompress that. I have to decompress that. And I even talked about like Ketanji Brown Jackson, Serena Williams, and Audre Lorde and Claudette Colvin, how they were labeled as angry black women when indeed they were just tired.
Yeah.
Don't confuse my angriness for tired.
That's good. Now,
real.
where can they watch that TED Talk at?
It's on YouTube.
It's on
Yep,
YouTube.
just type
Courtney
in,
Owens?
yep, Courtney Owens, TED Talk, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, and it'll pop up. And I was beyond happy to be able to do a TED Talk, and sometimes I forget the importance of doing that. Like, that's like a national platform, and I don't know who's seen that.
And I want to know, what are you doing to maximize on that?
And that's where I'm at right now. What I want to do is develop presentations and go to colleges and you know, different universities and even community projects and speak on that, because even our men, our own black men, don't realize, oh, she's just angry, she always mad. But no, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired because I had to go to work 12 hours, I had to come home, I had to go to parent-teacher conferences, I had to do this and I had to do that. And where were you?
And there's so many microaggressions that you're dealing with at work, at parent-teacher conferences, at the gas station, even at the grocery store. Before I get home to now prepare dinner and do homework and do all these things, there's so many. And one thing that I have to do, there's so many different things that I'm dealing with.
Absolutely.
So many aggressions, so many different things I'm having to dodge and maneuver and take, and I'm harboring that and I'm bringing it home.
Yeah, and
when do I release it?
you know, that affects our health. I've known so many women my age, even men, strokes, heart attacks, just cardiovascular disease, and it all stems from stress. We don't even recognize that stems from stress, even at the food that we're eating.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be conscious of that, and we need to educate our own community.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because when we think of soul food, what do we think of? Comfort. But we don't realize that soul food, real soul food, is different. So we have to open up our minds and understand that there's a connection between mood and food. Like, I'm trying to eat, I don't eat meat, and, you know, I try to eat on the better end of the spectrum. I do juicing and everything, but I can tell when I'm not eating like I'm supposed to, because I'm feeling some kind of way. You know what I mean? I'm mad for no reason, and I can tell when I'm on the better end of the spectrum. So as black people, we need to understand and we need to educate each other that there's a connection between mood and food. Like my child, he's in kindergarten. Not literally, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. He's in kindergarten. So for breakfast, I'm feeding him a donut and chocolate milk. And juicy juice. Like, that's not it.
Yeah, I used to see that a lot when I would go to my son's sporting games.
Yeah.
We would have like parents who would bring, different snacks for the end of the game. And I would see the snacks would be chips and juicy juice. And I'm like, they just played the game.
Yeah.
They need water. They need electrolytes. They need fruit.
Yes.
And vegetables. So now when it was my
They need
time,
live food.
I cut up the fruits and vegetables and put them in some little Ziploc bags. And my son wanted me to bring the cookies and stuff because that's what all the other parents were doing. But I understood, you know. And I've always been health conscious. I do consider myself. So I do still eat meat. I eat sweets occasionally, but I'm very conscious. So I don't tell people like I'm a vegan or vegetarian or even pescatarian because I do, and I fast. Sometimes I would go without meats for several months at a time. So I'm more of a conscious eater, right? Like I have 80% of greens in my food. I only do water. That's the only thing I take. I don't do dairy. I'm completely like coconut milk and all that other stuff. So I'm conscious of it. Now I would have my times where McDonald's used to have oatmeal cookies. And things happen.
But
my husband would say, I could tell you back on them cookies.
See?
Because my mood is different.
Mood
And
of food, sugar.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
now I'm a little bit short.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit shorter. I'm a little less patient
Yep.
than I would be. And you don't typically equate what you just ate to how
Yep.
you're feeling and how you're responding.
Yep.
But that is very important.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you brought that
Yeah,
up.
and I think a lot of our kids, they get misdiagnosed with things like ADHD and all that, but no,
Yeah.
it's the sugar content. And then they want to put them on Ritalin when we don't know that Ritalin is the same component as speed. So now you got my son on a controlled substance, basically, you know, and it's just change your diet. Decalcify the pineal gland. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, you know what I'm going to ask you.
Uh-huh.
Because you are dropping so much game right now, and I hope that this doesn't go over
All right, it's
anybody's
cool.
heads, because you are discussing the problems in our home, in our community, through our food, through our music, through just our knowledge and our information, and how it's historically been bred into our bloodlines. You do a lot of great inspirational work. What is your mission with everything? Everything that you know, everything that you do, what is your mission, like the overall goal?
My overall goal is to let people know that there is empowerment within themselves. The knowledge of self is everything. I can look for this temporary fix through this, through that. I can look for happiness through this and through that. But I want people to understand that it all lies within. Everything that you want to do, everything that you can achieve, you already have.
Yeah.
You were born with it. You know what I mean? It's just tapping into it. And I'm still learning that. Trust me, I'm not a master of that. I'm still learning that. Because now that I recognize that, okay, I want to be this great motivational speaker. I want to be this great transformational speaker, when all along it was already within me.
Yeah.
So now I'm just tapping into it. So I want people to know that the change lies within them. And that is my goal. Like, we don't always have to rely on outside sources to please an inner itch. We've got everything that we need on the inside of us to cure and to scratch that itch. So that's my main goal, to be an inspiration, to be a light. You know, like this song I always hear, you know, this little childhood song, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I want to be the light.
Yeah.
And if a person is feeling darkness, I want them to be able to tune into Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, and just hear me speak, or, you know, be in the same area that I'm in. I don't want my light to be so bright that it dims somebody else's.
Yeah.
We should all shine. There's room enough for all of us to shine.
Yeah, you want to lift other people up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of darkness in our community.
Yeah,
There's a lot of darkness that we've all experienced. And it's important for someone to be able to pull from you. Now, what are you pulling from?
You, people like yourself, and, you know, Franks and the Ambers, and I'm pulling off of those people. And I'm even pulling off the people in the darkness, because I understand that even in darkness, there are the stars.
Yes.
You know, so I'm pulling off of everybody. And I'm not so full of myself that I'm not open to have people pour into me. You know, and I'm one of them people, I love constructive criticism. If you see me doing something like, no, sis, that ain't it.
Yeah.
You know, I want those type of relationships with people, or when I'm feeling some kind of way, somebody pull me out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize I can pull myself out, but when somebody else recognizes you, it just gives you that, you know what I mean? That extra, like,
extra that you need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know I've experienced that, where I'm not just I'm doing good, I'm fantastic, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
But then I connect, I see you, I walk away just feeling like, oh.
Yeah, like, oh, I
better
needed
than
that.
fantastic.
Like, that was
I
that
got
soul
this.
food.
What?
Right, yeah.
And it's just very brief interactions.
Yeah.
So it's so much I wanted to get to.
Yeah,
that we did not get to.
Right, we're going to
Like,
do part
it was-
2.
Because the conversation before the camera started, oh man,
Yeah, we're going to have to
it.
script it out.
We got to, because I mean, it was just so much in just being a leader and being an influence, and that process of growing and becoming a better version of yourself, and kind of how that looks and feels as you know, are outgrowing relationships and people. So I really quick, because we only got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But I do want to ask you to give some tips on how somebody, if they are in this space of personal development and growth, but they feel like they may be leaving friendships and close relationships behind, how can they kind of facilitate that space where they may feel like, Or maybe it's imposter syndrome.
Right.
Because
Like
they're
you don't feel like you belong
I'm not
here.
really who I think I am, even though I feel
Yeah.
it. But everything in my environment and the people that I know, they don't really represent what I know about myself, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
How am I going to facilitate that space and navigate those relationships?
Well, like even getting rid of imposter syndrome, you have to recognize that whatever space that you are in right now, you belong. And there's a purpose that you are in that space. And sometimes we are in dark spaces, but we don't recognize that dark space is for a purpose. Like some things are just necessary. You have to recognize that. And I always tell people when dealing with relationships, you have to understand that there's a season for everything.
Yeah.
Just like the trees, you know, the leaves fall off by design.
Yeah.
Seasons,
Yeah.
winter, spring, summer, fall. There will be seasons of your life where it's darkness, but the seed has been planted. So now you're just waiting on that seed to develop the roots and just grow and bloom into something beautiful. And a lot of people, they're put in your life for a specific moment and a specific person. We have to understand and be comfortable with being able to let that situation go. Like the saying, you can love somebody from a distance. Just because you and a person aren't close anymore doesn't mean that you don't love that person. There's just a time where you have to recognize that you have to elevate.
Yeah.
And in that elevation, it requires separation. And I look at it like this. When you separate from some people, you can actually bring that person up within the chaos.
Yeah.
And a simple conversation can alleviate a lot of feelings that you might feel. You have to be open to that communication because if we fall off, it might not even be nothing personal. I haven't done anything to you and you haven't done anything to me. We're just in two different spaces right now. And I think we have to recognize that and take the hostility out of it and take the personal feeling out of it and recognize that it's just something that happens just as sure as the sun will shine and just as sure as the moon will replace the sun when it's time. It just happens.
Yeah.
You know, and we got to remove the personal feelings out of it. We all grow at different rates. And we all grow at different speeds. I was reading something where Toni Morrison didn't write her first award-winning book until she was 40. And I'm 42 now. You know, I wanted things to happen in my life when I was in my 20s, but I couldn't handle it. I know now looking back in the retrospect, I couldn't handle all the things that are happening to me now that I'm in my 40s. I couldn't handle it when I was 20, 25, or even in my 30s. I'm just growing and developing. We all develop at different rates. I see some of my friends, you know, they're retired now. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, well, I only got 10 years here in this place, but I know God is moving me into a different direction. And whether I'm 42 or whether I'm 52, it's still going to be there.
I feel like I owe you a fee.
Oh, no. This is free game.
It was too much. I feel like I owe you a fee for this conversation.
No, this is free game.
Yeah, and I appreciate you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I want to make sure that you give your information so people can connect with you.
Okay.
And partner with you. And, you know, however the collaboration may manifest.
Absolutely.
Give your information how they can contact you.
All right, you can contact me. My email is theworksofcourtneyjowens@gmail.com. You can contact me through that, and I'll even give my phone number out because I think everybody has it. You can contact me with my personal phone number. It's 567-371-1122. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can inbox me. I have 2 pages on Facebook. I have my personal page, which is Courtney J. Owens, and then I have my business page, which is The Works of Courtney J. Owens, and I think it comes up as Life Coach Court on one of the pages. Which ones, I'm not sure. You can always inbox me, DM me on Instagram. I'm Poetically Speaking. I'm not hard to find at all. You know what I mean? I'm usually here, there, at some community event. I'm very visible and I'm very approachable. So just contact me. We can talk about life coaching. We can talk about transformational speaking. We can talk about spoken word. And
I think it was a little bit of all of that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, everything. And I feel like you already dropped so many jewels and just like, I'm so blessed walking away from this conversation. But I'm going to ask you for one more thing. I'm going to ask you to just give one piece of information or one piece of advice to a woman who's watching this. She feels like there's greatness on the inside of her, but her circumstances may not look like it. Maybe she feels inadequate. Maybe she already is in that role, but she's overwhelmed and she doesn't know what to do. One piece of advice for that woman.
This is kind of like 3, but it's really 1.
Okay.
Be bold, be brave, be confident. One more. Be you.
Yes. Yes, I love it. I love it.
Thank
We
you.
cannot close it no better than that. I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Again, remember, until the next episode, I want you to continue to learn, continue to grow, and always lead with love. And these are Courtney Owens' 3 leading tips for leading ladies.
Be your authentic self. Goes a long way. Understand your emotions. Recognize your emotions. Stay in them, but don't live in them. And continue to have faith. Faith the size of a mustard seed will get you to a lot of places that pure talent cannot.